Everyone, and welcome to In-Country Partners. This is Marnie Brown, and I'm the director of the In-Country Partner Program. So my job today and the purpose of this webinar is to walk you through the basics of the program. If you've never worked with a DMC, or perhaps you don't even actually know what a DMC is, hopefully the next 40 minutes or so is going to be a good investment of your time. So let's start with what is a DMC. DMC stands for Destination Management Company. DMCs are physically based in the country in which they operate. They're actually very much like travel agencies in terms of their size and overall operation, only instead of planning trips for people to go outside of the country, they specialize in the people coming into their country. So that's why sometimes you might also hear them referred to as an inbound operator. And because DMCs are locally based and actually in the country, they're residents of the country, they know the country like the back of their hand. They know the fauna, the flora, the history, the geography, the religion, and importantly, they also speak, of course, the local language and understand the culture. So that's why we also sometimes refer to them as destination experts. When we talk about them in terms of the In-Country Partner Program, we're really referring to them more as custom FIT specialists, which is sort of interesting because many of our DMCs actually got their starts in business catering to groups, tour groups, corporate groups, that kind of thing. But as more and more travelers, particularly from the United States, wanted to travel more independently, they wanted private experiences, they wanted to get off the beaten path, many DMCs started adapting their business to cater to this very popular and now quite large trend that all of us are having to address. Many years ago, for travel agents, it wasn't really a big deal. You could just, you sell your clients a tour and they were happy with that. But increasingly today, your clients don't want that kind of experience. They really want to experience a destination more independently. So FITs, this little acronym that only the travel industry knows. It stands for Flexible Independent Travel, or it might be Foreign Independent Travel. There's really no right or wrong answer to that. I sometimes say it stands for Frustrating and Impossible Travelers. These are the people that say to you, we don't want to be part of a group. We don't want to be on a bus of any kind. We want to do things privately. We want to get off the beaten path. And this all sounds great, but from a travel advisor's perspective, it really has you scratching your head and biting your nails and asking yourself questions like, how much time is this actually going to take me? Which suppliers are going to be able to help me? I don't even know the destination. How much of a problem is this going to be? Should I charge a service fee? Will I make any money? These are questions you do have to ask yourself, particularly the last one. We all know that time is money, and any of you who have planned an FIT before know that you can put hours and hours and hours into the research and looking at things online, researching hotels, talking with multiple suppliers, and sometimes you do all of this work, spending hours and hours of time, and it never comes to fruition. Perhaps your clients change their minds, they decide they don't want to go, maybe they book with somebody else, and you put all this time into it for nothing. So when it comes to FITs, tackling an FIT, you really need to have a very organized process. I look at this process as being in 4 parts, and this particularly applies to custom FITs. So we're going to talk about each one of these steps that you need to go through when you plan an FIT. It starts with discovery, and then qualifying, choosing a supplier, and then creating the itinerary. So we'll look at each one of these individually. Discovery is something, it's a questioning technique that is used in many professions. Lawyers use it when they're working with their clients, and trying to build perhaps a defense for them. Doctors use it in their profession with their patients when they're trying to diagnose something or maybe come up with some kind of a treatment plan. Travel advisors also need to use a discovery process, particularly when it comes to FITs. Now, if you are in the habit of just kind of rattling off a bullet list of questions with your clients when they're in your office or you have them on the phone, where are you going? When are you going? How many people are going? What is your budget? The problem with that is you're going to come across as an order taker, and you really don't want to come across as an order taker. It's not something that's going to really resonate well with your clients. As Tony Robbins, who is a very famous life coach, says, successful people ask better questions, and as a result, they get better answers. I think that is so true in our business, in the travel industry business. Asking questions is a little bit of an art. There is an art to asking questions, which does come naturally to some people. The good news is if it's not something that you think you do particularly well, there are some simple techniques, which we're going to talk about now, that can really help you make that questioning process with your clients be so much better than the order-taking approach. I'm not going to get too academic here, but I am going to talk about 3 different types of questions that you can use in the discovery process. So the first type of question is a closed question. This is the kind of question where you just want a very simple answer, like, what time is it? It's 1 o'clock. Then there's an open question. Think of an open question as you're casting the net really wide. You're not sure what's going to come in. It might be a lot of information that you have to sift through to find out what's useful and what's valuable to you. An example of that would be what makes you happy. I mean, who knows how long somebody could talk about what makes them happy or what kind of answer they're going to give you. And then the third type is what is called a leading question. This is where you already have some information, but you want more detail. So an example of that would be, what did you find most interesting about a particular book? And you actually give the title. So you're really starting to drill down now into a detail. So let's look at how we might use these different types of questions when you're working with your client. So the first example is a closed question. And really, if there's anything that you take away from this webinar today, I hope it's this question, because it's so important that you try to get the time with your clients and try to get them to open up and talk about their vacations. So the way you could do this, you could say, I need to get a more detailed picture of what you want from your vacation. This may take a few minutes. Is now a good time? It really kind of forces them to say either yes or no. And even if they answer no, it gives you the recourse to say, well, could we schedule 20 minutes maybe for later today or sometime tomorrow? That would be a good way to start out your conversation with a very simple closed type question. So then you can move on to an open question. Perhaps your clients have indicated that they want to go to Ireland, but they've really not said that much more about it. You could use an open question like, Ireland is a beautiful country. And think about it. You could say a country is beautiful or insert any adjective that you want for just about any country in the world, even if you have never been there. Can you tell me how you came to choose Ireland for your vacation? Now, you don't know what they're going to answer. It may be a movie they've seen. They may have relatives there. It may be based on a book. I don't know. Maybe they've seen Game of Thrones. It could be all kinds of things. And the point is to just kind of get them to talk about what inspired them about that destination. As they are talking, it's very important to just listen and take notes. And one of the other tips I always say, if you don't have a headset, it's one of the best investments that you can make in any sales role. It frees up your hands. You can write notes, or you can actually even research things online as they're talking. So now they've talked a little bit about Ireland or the country that they're going to, and they've opened up about what's inspired them. Then you can start using some leading questions to get more important kind of details. Here's an example of one. You mentioned that you wanted to spend a few days in Killarney. Is there anything specific you had in mind that you would like to see or do there? This is an important question because there are travelers out there who don't always realize that travel advisors can book more than air, car, and hotels, and that tours and activities and customizing an itinerary with lots of experiences is something that you do. So once you get them to start talking about these things, maybe it's horseback riding on the beach in Killarney, or maybe it's playing golf, something like that, an experience that they might have read about or heard about or somebody told them about. Now it's your opportunity to say, I can do that. You know, we can work with our partners and customize an itinerary with those things. Another leading question that I encourage all of you to ask, don't be afraid to ask your clients about what kind of things they saw online that were interesting to them, things that they might want to see or do, or perhaps even it's a hotel that they read about. It's a reality today. We know your clients have been out researching online. I believe the latest stat from Phocuswright suggests that travelers are going to, on average, about 27 different websites. So you know they've done this. Maybe they've been doing this for months or even longer. They've been dreaming about this destination and all the things that they can see and do. It's a gold mine of information, and you want to make sure that you try to get them to open up. Praise them for doing this research. Certainly don't chastise them. You know, it's important that we welcome them to look up these things online, and then they contact you to bring everything together. So another example of an open question that's very important is, can you tell me about the other people who will be traveling with you and maybe some of their favorite interests or hobbies? This is important because you have to have a profile of all the different travelers, not just perhaps the lead person who's maybe doing all of the planning. If it's a family, you want to make sure that you know how old the children are and what kind of things they like to see and do. And the same thing with anybody else who may be traveling with the party. You want to develop as full of a profile about the client, each and every person, as you can, and you can do that with an open question. Now, as you're asking these questions, something else is happening. You are engaging with your customer. If you haven't worked with them before, this is how you actually establish trust with them, because while this conversation is taking place, they realize that you care. You care about their trip, you care about their interests. And this is all part of building a relationship with your client. Even if it's an existing client, you're always building on that relationship. And this is why people love working with travel agents. At the end of the day, they can get all kinds of information online, but what the travel agent or travel advisor brings to the table is a much better travel experience before they ever leave to when they're in country and when they return. It's part of that. It's part of that experience. So now we're going to move on and we're going to talk about the next stage, which is qualifying your clients. This really is mostly about trying to qualify their budget, which is one of the trickiest parts of working with your clients and FITs in general. It's trickier with an FIT because sometimes they don't always realize that traveling independently is about 40% more than an escorted tour and probably 20 or 30% more than a package. And so you want to make sure that you don't go to all this trouble, all this length, customizing an itinerary only for it to be a sticker shock when you actually present it to them. And you could have really saved a lot of time by simply going straight to a tour or package and telling your clients, really, I think this is the best direction to go. Now, you can also use this questioning technique when it comes to budget. You could actually say, do you have a budget? It's not necessarily a bad question, and maybe your clients have already offered it up front and they've said, we have a firm budget for this trip. but you can also still kind of use these leading questions to get more information. And this is going to help you determine whether they really are truly an FIT client, or you need to find a shelf product from a tour operator or a wholesaler. So you could say things like, are you willing to spend a little more money to be centrally located? We all know that hotels that are closer to the city center are going to be more expensive than those that are on the periphery. You start to kind of test your clients a little bit on what kind of things are important. If they say, well, we really don't care, we're not going to spend a lot of time in the hotel, we don't mind taking transportation in, we're more concerned about the cost, you start to know that this may not be, the true FIT type client. A private guide would get you away from the crowds, but they are more expensive. Would you be willing to pay more for this type of experience? Again, you're just really trying to be sensitive and ask them whether they understand that having these private experiences are going to cost more. They might say, well, maybe we would be open to a small group. And there are some, even in-country partners that do cater to small groups at a more economical price. So just, really get a feel for this from your clients. Maybe they've given you a budget. Ask them, would you expect this to include tours, activities, and most meals? And maybe they've got a contingency or allowance there for those types of things. So just kind of get a sense of when they said that budget, what they expect it to include. So now you've asked all of these questions. You've used closed and open and leading questions to find out from your clients the kinds of things that they want to see and do, the places, the types of hotels that they want to stay in, a profile of each person who is traveling, the dates that they want to go, and you've got some ideas to their budget, maybe how far it can be stretched or how sensitive they are to sticking with a budget. Now it comes to choosing a supplier. And when it comes to tour, land, itineraries, there's a plethora of preferred suppliers, preferred tour operators, wholesalers, as well as our in-country partners. So you really are kind of faced with which direction do you go? Do you go with a tour or package preferred supplier? And that would be if you know your clients have a tighter budget. And you know that there's a shelf product, an escorted tour, or a package that's going to be perfect for your clients. But if your clients are very insistent, they want everything private, they want everything independent, and you kind of put them to the test in terms of whether they have the budget for it, this is when you turn to an in-country partner and you can customize a beautiful, private, independent itinerary specifically to all of their needs and catering to the different profiles of all the different people. I know I put a lot of emphasis on this, but sometimes I use this slide. I say to use or not use an in-country partner. That is the question. The answer really is yes, if you've asked questions and have qualified your client's budget. So before I start really talking in more detail about the in-country partner program, I thought I would just add a little bit about planning fees and how you might actually broach this subject with your clients using your questioning technique. You could say something like, I'm going to spend quite a bit of time getting quotes and customizing an itinerary for your trip. Our agency charges N, whatever the planning fee is that you want. I'll give you some examples in just a minute. And some of you may say, you can apply this towards the trip if you book with us. Some of you do that, some of you do not. It's completely up to you whether you want to offer that to your client. And then as soon as I receive the planning fee, I can get started right away. I've talked to many advisors about this whole subject of planning fees, and I know that some of them are charging $25 to $50 per person. Sometimes it's $25 to $50 per hour. You might have a flat fee, a flat planning fee of anywhere from $100 to $500, and you may even have a planning fee agreement. The important thing is that you have thought about this, and when it comes to an FIT, one where you think you're probably going to put several hours into this, you just have to charge a service fee Pretty much everybody is doing it these days, and to not do it just really doesn't make sense. If the client doesn't want to pay it, maybe it's best that they do go somewhere else, because you can't work in this business for free. It's your livelihood. Okay, so now that you've got their planning fee, you've qualified them, you've got a lot of information about what they want in terms of an experience, and you've made this decision, you want to work with an in-country partner. Working with an in-country partner is very much a collaborative process. That's the word that I like to use. You're not selling a shelf product. You are creating an itinerary, and you're doing that by working with your client and then working collaboratively with an in-country partner. So I'm going to tell you how you go about finding an in-country partner. You log into Agent Universe, and as you can see here, you use the program drop-down menu, and you're going to see a tab for in-country partners. And if you click on that, this is the landing page that you'll reach from Agent Universe. And you'll see that there's a couple of different ways that you can work with our in-country partners. We just recently launched Select In-Country Partners, and I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. We also still have a link to the original in-country partner site. And I'll talk about the two programs in just a minute. I just wanted to show you how you get there from Agent Universe. So Select In-Country Partners, which you can reach from Agent Universe, is only accessible via, it's accessible from the new Select Experience website, but only from the agent view. So that's why you actually do have to log into Agent Universe to be able to look up our Select In-Country Partners. You will use a Select In-Country Partner when you know you're building a higher-end luxury multi-day custom itinerary. Those are kind of the operative words when it comes to working with a Select In-Country Partner. Your clients have to have this higher budget. They probably indicated that at a very minimum they want a 4-star or preferably 5-star hotel experience. They want private guides. They want private transfers, private. That is what Select In-Country Partners is all about. All of our Select In-Country Partners have been put through a very rigorous vetting process. There's a very detailed application that they all have to complete, and all areas of that application are verified, and all of their references are checked. We're looking at their experience operating as a DMC. We're looking at their experience working with travel advisors here in the United States, their financial information, the breadth of the products that they offer, obviously things like English-speaking staff, that type of thing. All of that is part of the vetting process. Typically, most of the DMCs in this program have been in business for 20, 30, and even more years. And you would use this program when you're working with your high net worth clients or VIP clients. When you work with an in-country partner, I'm actually going to show you quickly how you submit a request to them from Agent Universe. So from Agent Universe, you'll be able to search for a Select In-Country Partner by country. You'll see that we have Select In-Country Partners in over 120 countries across the world. You'll be very hard-pressed to find any country that you're selling that we don't have a partner there. And in fact, we've got multiple in-country partners in many countries and all of the major capital cities. So you'll find that it's very much a worldwide, comprehensive worldwide program. So you can search for a partner by country, and it will bring up the different, it might be only one that we have in a country, and sometimes it might be 4 or 5. You kind of have to just choose which is the best fit for you. What I'm showing you now is an example of a profile page for one of our in-country partners. This one is for France. They're called Découverte, and this is typical of what you will see for all of our partners. It just gives a quick snapshot of their business, the kind of things that they offer on a standalone basis, And then some other information that is really pertinent to a travel agent. The vast majority of our in-country partners quote on a net rate basis. If you've not worked on a net rate basis, what this means is they quote you net, and then you are empowered to mark up that quote by however much you want. If you're just booking a private transfer with them, I would suggest not marking up by much more than 10%. But maybe if you're planning a 2-week detailed custom FIT, I know advisors that are marking up 20% or even higher. The point is, it's up to you how much you want to mark up. And the in-country partner, when they then get that amount from you, they put that in the gross price that you present to your client. And then you have 2 ways of making a payment to the in-country partner. All of our in-country partners accept all major credit cards. So you can give your client's credit card to the in-country partner. And if that's the way you do it, they will then pay you that markup, usually as a wire transfer. Some of them do have bank accounts in the United States, in which case they might send you a check, but it will be in US dollars. It cannot be in any other currency. You don't have to worry you're not going to be getting checks in some weird foreign currency. It's a requirement of being a partner. They have to pay in USD. If your agency has a merchant account, you can also do it that way. If that's the case, then you give your client, you create the invoice for your client with the DMC's net rate and then whatever markup, and then you just simply pay the DMC the net cost, and then you keep the gross from your client. So it's really, really quite simple. You shouldn't be intimidated by working with net rates. All of our in-country partners are very experienced working with travel advisors. In fact, most of them, it's probably 99% of their business is through travel advisors. So if you have any concerns, they'll certainly be able to help you with that and walk you through that process. So you can read about them from their profile, and then the way you connect with them is just click on that contact button that you see here, and you can submit a request directly to them that asks you for information. And some of it is detailed. What are the cities and areas that your clients want to visit, the ages of their children. There are some free flow text areas where you can cut and paste or just type away. And importantly, give that information that you got from your client when you went through the discovery process. It is critical that the in-country partner gets that information. They cannot customize an itinerary without it. And you don't want to waste their time or your time going back and forth with this information. I encourage all of you to use this request form. It's a checklist of sorts of the information that they need upfront before they can start this planning process. When you click submit, that goes directly to the in-country partner. Sorry, I'm not sure if you can see that there, but you just click the send request. That then goes directly to the in-country partner, and you can expect a response from them within 24 hours. That is a firm service level expectation that we have of all of our in-country partners. I should say it's 24 business hours, so it's not required at the weekend. If they don't respond within that time frame, absolutely contact us at In-Country Partners. You'll find our contact information in Agent Universe, and we will chase it down. Although I can honestly say it's a very, very rare occurrence that you don't get a response within 24 hours. Do double check your spam or junk folder, because sometimes, depending on how you've got your filters set, emails that originate from overseas might go in there. So you do want to quickly check that first. The response may be, thank you, we've received your request. We're working on your proposal, and we'll have that to you within about 24, maybe 48 hours, depending on the complexity of it. So that is how you begin the collaborative process working with the in-country partner. Okay, so I've talked about net quotes, which may be in local currency. I did want to point that out. Some of them will quote in US dollars if you ask them to do that, but most of them it will be local currency. So you'll either quote that to your client, or if you want to quote in USD, you will have to go through a currency exchange process. Mark up however much you want, and then you'll receive that markup in the form of US dollars. So I'm going to talk a little bit now about the kinds of products and services that you can, that the in-country partners work with. So you can book accommodations with our select in-country partners, accommodations really of any kind, all hotels and resorts. But where you're going to find them particularly helpful is when it comes to boutique hotels, camps and lodges, private villas, castles, tented camps. The kinds of properties that are not uniform or branded, and you, in all likelihood, unless you've been there and you know this destination very well, you haven't seen them, and you don't necessarily know which would be the best fit for a family or for honeymooners or maybe clients who are a little bit on the older side. That's where the in-country partners are so helpful. They do regular site inspections at all of these niche independent properties, and they can match your clients to the ones that are absolutely perfect for them. Another initiative that we have, all of our in-country partners are familiar with our Select Hotels and Resorts program. They've all been sent information on this, and we have asked them, and there is an expectation that they do their best to prioritize those properties, as well as attempt to secure the amenities and credit you for that booking. It's not something that is contractually required either by the hotel or the in-country partner, but they will do this on your behalf so that you get those great select benefits, even when you're working with a select in-country partner. But it is kind of decided on a case-by-case basis by the property. Private transfers. Many of our in-country partners will actually do a private transfer on a standalone basis. But typically, again, when you're working with a select in-country partner, it's mostly for a multi-day custom itinerary where they're using private transfers from the airport and when they're having experiences in country. Our in-country partners have some of the absolute best private guides in the world. And this is where I get the most feedback, is on the private guides that are being used by our select in-country partners. Some of the kind of testimonials that I have are from actual clients who were a little bit skeptical of the price of the private tour with the private guide before they went on the trip, but came back and then said to their advisor, this was the highlight of our trip. We would have paid even more for it. It's a truly special experience. These are the best private guides. Quite honestly, they do like working with FIT clients. They'd rather just take 2 people or maybe a family of 5 or 6 out than a group of 20 or 30 people. And I think we can all understand why they might prefer to do that. All of our in-country partners spend a great deal of time sourcing and creating unique experiences, getting your clients away from the crowds, off the beaten path, into areas of the country that are literally not even accessible to the public quite often, and certainly not to these larger groups of 20, 30, or even 40 or 50 people. They pride themselves on this part of their business. They're constantly trying to create new experiences depending on what kind of things people want to see and do. Active and adventure. This is the fastest growing segment of our industry. It's certainly not by any means the largest, but it is actually the fastest growing. And sometimes this can be a little tricky for you if your clients are very active. They want to kayak, they want to climb, they want to do some biking when they're in country. I think our in-country partners are a great resource for that because they are working with the very best and trusted local vendors. Their whole business reputation depends on them choosing these good vendors for this type of thing. So if that's what your clients are interested in, in-country partners are a great resource. I always like to make sure I also mention private safaris. Um, you know, many of you are probably working or have worked with a preferred tour operator, and I certainly don't want you to even think about changing working with those great operators for private safaris in Africa. But if your clients say, you know, again, we don't want to be out there in the wild with a group. We so badly want to do this privately, and they might have certain camps and lodges and an order that they want to do this in. We have many in-country partners in Africa that can not only customize, but do everything for your clients on a private basis. So now, just a little bit about our worldwide program. So for those of you who have actually used in-country partners before, the in-country partner website, www.incountrypartners.com, is still live and still functioning. And the best thing about that site is you don't actually have to log in. The reason you don't have to log in is there really isn't any sensitive or proprietary information that we need to worry about the public getting their hands on. It's also not indexed, and what that means is if your clients, the only way you can find the site is if your clients Google in-country partners, which they're not going to do because it's not a program that we talk about at all from a consumer standpoint, and in-country partners is just not something they're going to look up. So the site is there just for travel advisors, and you will find all of our DMCs, including our select in-country partners, are listed out on that site. But we're also developing this, and you're going to be hearing more about this. This is kind of a work in progress and a very, very exciting initiative. It's going to feature tours and activities. So these would be day tours and activities. Some of them may be very short, maybe 1 or 2 day tours even in very, very small groups. Those might also be accessible through this new program. And then it's also going to feature additional DMCs that are specialists in MICE, meetings, incentive, corporate events, and groups, because we've had a lot of agencies asking about this, particularly corporate agencies that might have incentive clients or corporate clients that offer an incentive program to their employees, and they support that. So we will be actually really just expanding our DMCs to include that type of DMC. I think I'm almost at my last slide here. If you go out to the In-Country Partners site, again, it's www.incountrypartners.com, you'll see that we've got some additional information on FAMs, and we share little things about our partners. But really the thing I want to draw your attention to is the link to our private Facebook group. All you need to do is click that. It's going to ask you the name of your agency. That's the only information that we ask, and you'll be able to join that group. You do not have to be friends with me. You don't have to be friends with anybody else in the group. What happens is we post information there, mostly new experiences from our in-country partners. So those just show in your news feed. If you're on Facebook, and you kind of learn a little bit about what they do, and it's nice. I know advisors like this because we're not bombarding you with emails. It's just a nice, easy way for us to share information on our in-country partners, and for you to browse that at your leisure. There's 2 dedicated staff to it, myself, Marnie Brown, and we have a program specialist who joined me earlier this year, Erica Gindley. And if you're quick enough, I'm sorry, I don't know what I've got going on with my PowerPoint here, you can catch our contact information. But don't worry if you miss that. Just go to Agent Universe. You can always contact support services, and they will connect you with either Erica or myself. We welcome you to do that. We love talking to advisors. We like getting your feedback. We'll do our best always to answer your questions. And we can often tell you, if you're not sure, who might be the best in-country partner for you to work with. So that sums up the basics. I hope that you enjoy working with our in-country partners. and I look forward to working with you. And again, if you've got questions, feel free to reach out to either Erica or me directly. Thank you.